Welcome to Bloodstock TV. I am very, very honoured to be sitting here next to Neil from Clutch. Absolute pleasure to have you, man. Thank you for dropping by. How are you?
I'm well. Thanks for having me.
Listen, it's the first time that you guys have played or are about to play at Bloodstock, so it's something that has been on my wish list for many, many years. So when I found out that it was confirmed and you were performing, it was there was much air fist punching in the office when we found out. So it's really great to have you. Just speaking of festivals, you play. You know, you're a band that is really eclectic in my eyes. Okay, you can play, a jazz fest, a blues fest, a metal fest, a this fest, a that fest, and it's a very coveted place to be. That you can walk out and just appeal to such a wide variety of people. But my question to you is, when you do walk out on these various different festival stages, is there a self-awareness about what you're kind of, okay, this is a metal crowd, this is a blues crowd, this is is it just you just go out there and do your thing?
I think it's the latter. We do our thing. I think if you try to overthink it and cater to what you think someone's expectations are, then it's really not music anymore, it's marketing. And I think it's worked for us to just be ourselves and I think people can see that. And if people don't like it, that's okay. I'm not gonna, cry myself to sleep. But I think even if we're playing a very metal festival, it's okay to not be the most metal band because that kind of works in your favor in some ways. And I think at the end of the day, but the majority of the people here just like music. I'm sure they love metal, but I would hazard a guess they like other kinds of music too.
Yeah, just good music from the soul, which is absolutely what you guys do. Jumping to the latest album, Sunrise and Slaughter Beach, I can't believe it's been out for almost 2 years now, isn't it?
If not longer, yeah.
It's almost to the date, I think. It was like, I spoke to you back in 2013 after Earth Rocker came out, and then again I spoke to you on Psychic Warfare when you were touring. You were coming through Ireland at the time, and we were kind of discussing. There was just this huge momentum with Earth Rocker. It's just sort of the band sort of pivoted in a different. It's just that everyone sort of knew about Clutch at that point, and I see that now with every album. It's like the momentum behind each album is just. There's such a swell of it. And my question is, do you feel that yourself since Earth Rocker, that there was a change and with each album now that it's like becoming, the reach is so much further than the discography prior to Earth Rocker?
Well, I kind of think like maybe in some ways Blast Tyrant might have started that and then Earth Rocker kind of like kicked it down the road a lot. I think... Well, the way I look at it is if we're still able to do this after 30-some years, to me, that's the greatest sign of success. We're still being asked to do festivals. People still come to see us at our own shows. And, there's a lot, I think other bands kind of like us, we don't have songs on the radio per se, like terrestrial radio on, charts or whatnot. And to be able to make a living doing this, I think is a testament to our fans. It takes a lot longer to build up a fan base by word of mouth.
Absolutely.
But I think those fans that you do win over by performing live, they're much more dedicated over the long term. If you have sometimes having like the number one song of the summer can be the death knell of an artist because that's all it is. And that would be a very dark place to live in, I think.
Can't even imagine. Yeah. Well, just looking at some of the material, the Vaults series that you guys have been releasing periodically, live from the Dune Saloon series and the PA tapes, are there plans for more to come? Because I'm sure there is just, 30 odd years of like...
Well, a lot of that stuff is pretty recent because it's only in the past, 5-6 years, we had our own soundboard and technology eventually caught up where you could just record all the tracks on a hard drive. There are some older ones, but those live on cassettes, and that we did one from like 1993, and it sounds like it's on a cassette from 1993.
Wow.
But we will do them. It's just sometimes it's hard to after a tour, sit down and say, okay, let's listen to the band some more.
That was my next question. How do you go about selecting and choosing this stuff? And I can imagine like when all you want is kind of silence and you just want to step away from it. And
I think we sometimes step away from a show going, okay, let's make a mental note. That one was really good.
Yeah.
But it's tough to kind of listen to oneself in your free time when you're doing this all the time.
I can understand. Are you still actually? I think it was you told me that I asked you before about selecting set lists, and you said you rotated through the bands.
Mm-hmm.
Are you guys still doing that?
Yeah. So John Paul is responsible for tonight's set list, so you can talk to him about it.
All right. That's where you send your complaints letters to or whatever, which I doubt you will anyway. But so just looking back on the band's discography, there's always been roughly around about 2 to 3 years between albums. So we're 2 years now around about from Sunrise. And I know that Tom Dalgetty was over with you and he did some pre-production work already. So that's very exciting. So there's another session lined up with Tom in early 2025, is that right?
That's correct. We're
Okay.
going to try to maybe do one in January and then another one right before we record.
Okay.
Hopefully we'll have like 15 tracks and then we'll pick maybe the 10 best and record or release those and maybe save some for a rainy day.
Yeah.
So Tom's great, and I think sometimes working with a producer, personalities half the battle because they can have all the skills in the world, but if they're an asshole, you don't want to work with them.
Yeah, well.
Tom is anything but that.
So we're looking at it. So I'm just trying to mentally do this now. So it could be potentially spring or summer that we're looking at a new album
Of next year?
Yeah.
No, it would be probably the third quarter.
Okay.
Towards the end. I mean, nowadays you got to have such a buffer. It's getting better with vinyl.
Yeah.
But we
Of
have
course,
to
yeah.
plan that way in advance.
And then with the new material that you've been like compiling and doing for this album, is there any? Have you guys ever said, let's just drop that into the set and kind of see how that goes and get a barometer for, the feel of it?
Yeah, I think we try to. That doesn't always happen, but I think playing a song live in front of people is a much different animal than doing it in a studio where you can stop and say, I have to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
There's an urgency that will change a song. And something, sometimes something sounds great, and then you put it on stage and it maybe not so much, or vice versa. So we like to do that.
Okay. And my final question to you here is the celebrated reimagined album covers that you did for each member of the band selected one. How did that democracy work? Like, was it kind of like, well, I want Blast Tyrant? No, I that's kind of my choice as well. Because you had to pick one individually each, right? So
yeah, I don't remember that conversation. I know I've ended up with Earth Rocker. And
John Paul got Blast Tyrant,
yeah,
I think.
And Dan did Robot Hive, and I believe Tim is doing. He did Transnational.
Okay.
But that was a little different because that's a licensing thing. And hopefully we'll be able to license self-titled. But I'm actually working right now with Nick Laciotis, who did the original artwork of Earth
cool.
Rocker, to reimagine it, so to speak.
Yeah. So there was no two people picking the same album then?
No, I don't remember. Right. We probably did it exactly the same way we did our set list. We did Dan first.
Just rotated.
Then,
yeah, spin a bottle or something like that. Excellent. Well, look, we look forward to all the stuff that we've just been talking about and everything else that you guys are doing. And with that being said, Clutch at Bloodstock. I never ever thought that would happen. I mean, I did, and I wished it, and now it is, and it's fantastic and wonderful. Neil, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And best of luck with everything going forward, and we look forward to new Clutch music in the near future. So,
excellent. Thank
awesome.
you.